Thabi, when looters move in next door. The siege defense guide. The power's been out for 3 days. The looting started on day 1, smash and grab. Panic shopping with baseball bats. But now it is day 5 and they're not leaving. They're squatting in the empty house 2 doors down. They've parked a stolen van at the end of your block. You hear music at 2 a.m. from a house that has been abandoned for weeks. They're lighting fires in driveways. Dogs are running loose. Trash is piling up. This isn't chaos anymore. This is territory. Your neighborhood just became contested ground. And if you're bugging in, if you've chosen to stay put in your home, you're not defending against a random break-in anymore. You're defending like it is a war zone, because it is. Here is what nobody tells you about long-term collapse. The looting stops being random. It calcifies. It becomes organized. The people who hit the grocery store on day 1 are taking over houses by day 5. And they're doing it because they can, because there are no cops, no National Guard, no consequences. And if you're in a decent looking house with a maintained yard, you just became a target. Let me show you how to hold the line when the looters don't leave. The shift from chaos to control. Most people picture looters as mobs. Come in, grab stuff, disappear. Wrong. When infrastructure fails long enough and law enforcement is stretched thin or gone entirely, chaos doesn't stay chaotic. It organizes. It settles. It digs in. The timeline. Day 1 is panic. Day 3 is opportunistic looting. Day 5. That is when they start claiming territory. That grocery store they looted becomes their supply depot. That abandoned house becomes their base. And your stable-looking home with the intact windows and the car in the driveway. That is the fortress they want next. Your house matters. To desperate, organized looters, your home isn't just shelter. It is resources, water, food, possibly weapons, maybe a generator humming in the garage. That is gold in a collapse. And if they think you won't fight for it, they'll take their chances. The creep factor. This doesn't feel like a raid. It feels like rot spreading. One day, the street is quiet. Next day, there is an unfamiliar van parked down the road. It stays overnight. Then you hear music from the empty house. Trash piles up. Fire pits appear in driveways. Dogs run loose. That is not random. That is a signal. They've moved in. They've decided this is their new home base. And unless someone pushes back, they're not going anywhere. If you're paying attention, you'll feel the shift from chaos to control. And the sooner you recognize it, the better your chances of surviving without a bloody fight. Stage 1, territory testing. When looters shift from roaming to squatting, their behavior changes. If you're observant, you can catch it early. The loitering phase. People hanging out, not panicking, not running, just standing there. The same guy in a hoodie walks past your house 3 times a day. They're not doing anything yet. They're measuring what they're watching, which cars are still in driveways, which houses look lived in, which yards are overgrown, which porches have movement, which ones look abandoned. They're building a mental map of who is home and who is vulnerable. The test knock. They knock on your door asking for water or claiming they're looking for someone. That is not a social call. That is recon. They're gauging your response. Do you open the door? Do you look weak? Do you sound alone? That moment you answer sets the tone. Act like a pushover. You just bumped yourself up their target list. Act unaware. They think they can catch you off guard, but respond with control, with firmness, without giving anything away. They're more likely to move on to a softer target. Physical markers. If they're squatting nearby, you'll see furniture dragged onto lawns, spray painted symbols on garage doors, fires lit at night with no attempt to conceal them, people gathering at the end of driveways, smoking, talking, laughing, not like neighbors, but like people who've claimed turf. They're not afraid anymore. That means they think they own the place. Your window. If you're watching early, you can prepare without tipping your hand. You can harden your home while they're still getting comfortable. You can start laying defenses, securing doors, loading supplies into interior rooms, planning fallback positions before they even think you're worth hitting. Because once they're already breaking in, you're reacting. And reaction is the slowest form of survival. Stage 2, make your home say, not worth it. This is a game of presentation and preparation. You want your home to scream one thing: not worth it. You do this in stages: concealment, deterrence, then fallback defense. Concealment. Black out the windows. Make sure that if they're standing across the street looking at your home, they can't tell whether you've got lights on, whether anyone's moving, or whether it is even occupied. Keep trash inside. Don't cook anything that fills the air with food smells. Eat cold when you can. Boil water only when necessary. And when you do, cover vents and flames. You don't want them thinking you've got a full pantry and a running kitchen. You want to blend in, look desperate, look like you're just as screwed as everyone else. Passive deterrence. Put up visible but cheap-looking signs. No trespassing. Armed homeowner. If you've got fake cameras, hang them now. Better yet, use solar-powered motion sensor lights to create startle points in your yard. If you've got real gear door jammers, reinforced locks, window bars, security film, install it in a way that doesn't scream military bunker, but clearly says you're going to have to work for it. Fallback defense. The inside of your home should be layered, not one big open space. You want choke points, rooms that can be locked or barricaded from the inside, furniture that can flip into cover. Know every shadow and blind spot in your home. Be able to move through them in silence. Think of it like this. You're not looking to make a last stand unless you absolutely have to. What you're trying to do is make them rethink the approach entirely. Because in a world where easy targets are everywhere, the only reason someone comes for you is because they think it'll be easy. Your job is to make sure that from the second they lay eyes on your place, it is not. The mental game, siege mindset. Everyone wants to prep their gear, build barricades, load mags. But if your mindset isn't wired for the long haul, none of that matters. A siege isn't a movie moment. It is not one night of glory. It is day after day of stress, fatigue, isolation, and fear slowly chewing through your nerves. If you're not mentally prepared for that grind, it'll break you faster than a crowbar to your front door. Rule 1, expect to be scared. Don't let fear run the show. You're going to hear noises at night. You're going to see silhouettes where they shouldn't be. You're going to second guess yourself constantly. In that environment, the worst thing you can do is freeze up or make reckless choices just to feel like you're doing something. The right mindset is calm, patient, deliberate. You move with purpose. You wait for confirmation before you act. You don't let anxiety trick you into opening the door or making noise just to feel some kind of control. Rule 2, build routine. Even in chaos, humans need structure. Set a schedule: morning, perimeter check; midday, water, inventory; afternoon, maintenance; nightfall, lockdown. You can adjust it, but you need that rhythm to keep your brain sharp. When everything outside is falling apart, your mind clings to habit like a lifeline. Rule 3, control the energy. If you've got people with you, family, friends, anyone, they're going to mirror your energy. If you panic, they panic. If you act like you're handling it, even when you're stressed, they'll take their cues from that. That is leadership. That is protection. Sometimes it is not about being the strongest. It is about being the one who holds the center while everyone else wobbles around you. The truth, your real weapon isn't your gun. It is your ability to stay composed, clear-minded, and in control of your own reactions. Worst case, they move in next door. Let's talk about one of the worst but highly likely situations. When the house next door isn't just empty, it is occupied by the very people you're trying to avoid. Suddenly, the danger isn't out there anymore. It is across the fence. It is watching from the window 30 feet away. Why proximity is deadly. You can't move freely anymore. You can't talk on your porch. You can't walk your perimeter without the risk of being seen, overheard, or worse, if they see you as a threat or as a prize. You're now in an active standoff, whether you like it or not. Your best weapon, intelligence. You need to know how many are in that house, what they're doing, whether they've got weapons, whether they're organized or chaotic, who comes and goes, and when are they on drugs, sober, violent, opportunistic. These details help you calculate risk and anticipate behavior. Adjust your footprint, your movements, your sound, discipline, your visual profile all of it tightens. If you used to walk the yard every morning, find another way to check it. Maybe through an attic vent, maybe with mirrors. You adapt. You stop using open spaces. You shut blinds permanently. You reroute your routine so they can't map you from a distance. Reconnect with allies. If you've got even one trusted neighbor still hanging in, now is the time to reconnect. Radios, whistles, agreed. Signals. You don't need to see each other every day, but knowing you've got an ally 2 houses down changes the whole dynamic. That adds a layer of defense those squatters weren't expecting. If you're alone, you become the ghost. You move like your house is empty. You leave, no trace. And if you ever do have to make a move, evacuation, confrontation, misdirection, you do it with full commitment and zero hesitation, because once they're next door, you're no longer prepping for what if. You're surviving right now. The intelligence war, see without being seen. When looters are nearby, and especially when they've dug in, the ability to see, hear, and understand what is happening without being seen yourself becomes one of your most powerful tools. What you need to know when they move, how often they come and go, what vehicles they're using, how many people you're dealing with, whether they're desperate, organized, or violent. Low-tech surveillance, cheap binoculars, a cracked window with a mirror angled toward the street, reflective surfaces inside your home that give you sight lines without exposing your body. Every vantage point matters. Every second of visibility helps paint the bigger picture. Noise discipline works both ways. You want to hear them, but you don't want them hearing you. No stomping, no shouting, no slamming doors. Close things slowly. Walk soft. Pad surfaces if you have to. If you're using two-way radios, keep transmissions short and vague. Have code words. Have a system. Red signal means someone's outside. Code 3 means lock all windows. You don't want to explain everything on air when someone could be scanning frequencies with a cheap receiver. Old school markers. Leave signs for yourself. A stone moved on the back porch. A leaf on a gate hinge if it has been touched. You know, someone's been there. Flour or ash across an entrance shows footprints. A piece of string across a fence line, tied just loosely enough to fall if brushed. It is old school, but it works. You don't need high-tech gear to get high-impact intel. You just need to be deliberate and observant, because if they're watching you, and believe me, they are, your job is to know more about them than they know about you. When the line is crossed, active defense. Sometimes all the planning in the world can't stop what is coming. They want in. Maybe they think you've got fuel. Maybe they caught a glimpse of light under your blackout curtain. Maybe they're just high and desperate and picked your house at random. But now you're facing down the thing you were hoping to avoid. A confrontation. First, understand this. Violence is not the goal. Survival is. If you can diffuse the situation, bluff them away or wait them out. That is almost always the better option. But if that line is crossed, if they're kicking at your door, smashing windows, breaching your perimeter, then you act like your life is on the line because it is. Your defensive plan should never start at the front door. Your first fallback position should be deeper in the home. You want hard cover, not concealment. A place where you can see them before they see you. A place you can defend without being fully exposed. You control the angles, you control the space, and you commit. This isn't a warning shot kind of moment. This is the line. If they cross it, you stop them fast and without mercy. After a confrontation, you don't relax. You regroup. You treat wounds. You reinforce. You move anything valuable away from breached areas. You reposition, and if you have the ability, this might be the moment to relocate entirely, because now you're on the map. They'll talk. They'll remember. You don't want a second wave showing up with revenge on their mind. But if you stay, you go dark again. You double your silence, you reduce your footprint, and you stay sharper than ever. Because the moment they test your defense and survive, everything changes. The end game outlasts the rot. When the looters don't leave, when they settle in like ticks, and your neighborhood turns into a battleground, you need to be ready for more than just a break-in. You need to be ready for a siege, a test of endurance, mindset, and resolve. You harden your home without drawing attention. You gather intelligence without getting spotted. You stay ready to defend your family without slipping into paranoia. This is the SHTF scenario no one likes to think about, but it is the most likely in a full-scale collapse. It is not the riots that get you. It is what comes after the slow decay, the new rules, the desperate people trying to claim what is not theirs because no one's stopping them. Your checklist right now. Check your windows, die. Check your back door. Think about what happens if your neighborhood turns hostile. Run through your fallback positions. Test your noise discipline. Make sure your family knows the signals, because bugging in isn't easy, but it is possible. You just have to be ready to hold the line. Your move